Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the channel. It's a beautiful Friday morning in June, and today I'm driving the 240. Now, the 240 is never going more than 5 miles away from the house, and recently I had to pull the engine out to change out the oil pump. I drove around a little bit since, and it seems to be running well. Where are my keys to this 240? Seems to have been running well. It's never been more than 5 miles away from the house. So today we're going to drive it about 32 miles to work, about 32 miles back. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. I'm going to let it warm up for just a minute, and then we will get going down the road. Hopefully Jeremy doesn't forget about the 240 buying all these Skylines. This is the second Skyline. You've seen the gray one on the channel. That's got even more mods to it now. 240 looks extra bad right next to this. This engine must be running pretty nice. Let's check the oil on the dipstick. Even though we have about 60 miles on the motor. I mean, you can tell there's oil in the stick, but you can't even, it doesn't really even have a color yet. It's still super light, clear, goldish. So I pulled over here at the Olive Garden after a very intense drive through town where I briefly hit 200 because, again, no rad fan power yet. Every time I turn, it feels like the steering shaft down there is hitting something, but as far as I can see, it's completely clear. So I don't know. Check that out. I found Jeremy's aftermarket Nismo coil cover. Got a little bit of zinc plated bolts holding it down. Some zinc plated bolts on the valve cover. Looks pretty decent. Alright, so there's a lot of jank going on right here. Couldn't figure out why the rad fans are doing that weird thing where they'd switch on and off when I'd run the stepper motor that controls the idle on absolute, but when I turned to relative and it actually controlled the idle properly because it didn't work on absolute, then the rad fans wouldn't work. And they didn't work based on temperature anyway. They would only turn on for a while. So I have the fans set now to turn on at 110 degrees as a test. Right now you can see they are off. It is off. As soon as this hits 110. And there it goes. It is on. So I also had it adjust. It would give it a 1 second lead in where it would raise the idle a couple hundred RPM. Or not a couple. Raise it 5% is what I set it at. And so yeah, what I did was I hacked into the VTC. Since we're not running an S15 motor, and I don't plan to ever run a notch top S15 motor, or at least I hope Jeremy doesn't. I'm using the VCT DP04 output to tell it to turn the fans on. Alright, all wired up. It's all tucked. Can't even see it. Using stock relays. I really just stuck it on that way. There it is. Rad fans now work, and it looks exactly the same. So that's a bonus. Alright, so the oil pressure looks good. The idle control is working. It's idling at about 1400 RPM because the engine is cold. Fire up my laptop here so we can watch the fans come on. So it looks like the Haltech is reading 150. This is reading like 138. So I'm going to trust the glow shift less than the Haltech. I would say the Haltech's a lot more accurate, but this is still giving you a baseline, kind of sort of monitoring everything. I mean, it's not really giving you a good baseline though if it's wrong. As you can see now too, the temp is up. We're up to 160, and the idle is coming down to about where it should be. It should idle about 800, I think is where I have it set. 800, 850, around there. All right, we hit 185. You can hear it. Pop the hood. The fan is running. Oh, I've been doing so much work and so little filming, so I don't even know what the last clip was, but Jeremy got a grill for the 240. Obviously, as you can see, the intercooler's off because I made brackets. I just got done sandblasting them. The back corner of that garage where it's not ventilated is so hot. And now I'm gonna powder coat them, and then we will bolt the intercooler up, and that's basically one of the last things I need to do before this is done for Jeremy. So let's get to it. All right, these are all coated. Let's get them on the car. All right. Yeah, look how bad the bottom of this car looks. That's powder coated bracket 1, powder coated bracket 2, and then up here behind the grill we have bracket number 3. Bolts back here to the crash structure where the horn goes. This thing is now bolted totally solid. That's not going anywhere. And the hoses, the charge pipes aren't even connected like tight yet, so that's all brackets. So we've done about 200 miles on the 240. We drained the cheap trans oil out of it that we had in it just to clean it out. Yeah, nice reflection. What happened was nobody checked the trans, and I assumed that the guys that put the trans in when we started this project, they had checked the oil. My bad. Should have double checked, but there was no oil in it for the first, hour that it idled and 2 miles that it drove maybe. So this is all the metal that came off the magnet, quite a bit. That's what was rubbed off when I had no oil in it. Hopefully that's all been collected now on this magnet. We can all learn from it. And I'm going to go ahead and put a fresh bottle of some GL4 Redline MT90 oil in here, and this thing will run like a dream. Clean magnet, ready to go back in. These connections are all soldered up. And there we go. All heat shrinked, as you can see. I have each individual wire heat shrinked, and then I have the outer casing heat shrinked again. Go ahead and zip tie these up. And all tied up good enough for a ripper car. Also, the last thing I had to do was, somebody already did the wire tuck on this. This car was apparently super low at one point. I just had to get this boot tucked back into the hole in the body. It was not in there, so I hope it wasn't driven much in the rain in its previous life, because this was all just open to getting splashed water right up in there and into your footwell. But the pinch wells tell me it probably was. So I gotta vacuum it out before I take it back, but the 240 is basically in its final form. Hope the video is not too shaky. I crashed at the BMX park today and hurt my knee a lot. So it's officially a SR20 swapped, Koki swapped 240. And fires right up. Alright, last start here at the house. The 240 is officially leaving and going back to Jeremy. Oh, half the dash is out again. Woo, 240 things. Alright, we just got fuel. Let's get the hell out of here. Now for the SR20, we have a couple things we got to finish off before my friend Jeremy picks this thing up tomorrow to go in his S14-240. The ABS module on this was stolen, so I'm gonna just bypass that, just do some 180s and put new lines on it. We're doing this is a Zenki 240. We're doing a front end swap, and the back has some holes in the trunk from a drift wing that used to be on it. So now the thing we just got for the 240, we got a Wiring Specialties Pro Series harness to replace this cut up mess. And to power it all, we got a Haltech Elite 1500 standalone ECU. So we can go ahead and tune this to do whatever Jeremy wants it to do. Bye-bye 240.
I'm just calling to say I